Hello, 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 wherever you are in the world today. Thank you for joining us on the Rise Traveler, unpacking conversations of sustainable travel. We're here to move a step beyond the Instagram ready world of travel and think critically and deeply about how travel can uplift global communities, protect natural ecosystems, and be a resource of growth for travelers. And here at the Rise Travel Institute, we're committed to empowering travelers and travel professionals through education. Our programs, research, experiential journeys, and scholarships and free resources are all aimed at bringing you closer to a more responsible and ethical travel experience. You can always learn more by visiting risetravelinstitute.org. I'm your host, Amy Hager. Welcome. Today, I'm super excited because I have a dear, dear old friend of mine, Natalie, who has been a volunteer here at Rise as long as I've been here. And she started with me on the content creation committee. She also has facilitated our live sessions of our flagship program. Her and I actually did a presentation at a conference together one time in California. There's just so many things that Natalie has been involved with. And so, Natalie, I think to kind of kick us off today, why did you even join the Rise Travel Institute? Really, at one of the earlier starts of the organization, what really felt aligned and clicked for you?
That's a really good question. So I joined in 2021 in June. So it was just a year after Rise was founded by Vinci in 2020 in June. And I was actually connected with Vinci through a mentor, Mary Pashampo. So I was in my master's program, and Mary Pashampo is the director, advisory director there. And so Vinci also went through the same program, and Vinci started doing this organizations as one of her capstone projects in the program. And at the time, I was living in Asia. It was pandemic, so I started the program during pandemic. So I was in communication with Mary Pat the entire way that Vinci was just starting this.
Yeah.
And I was experiencing, I mean, like many of us, pandemic came and it really brought up all those bigger, larger picture questions like, what do I want to do? Do I want to pivot? You
Yeah.
know, um, and it really allowed us to ask those questions to kind of pause. And
Right.
so at the time, I had been living in, I had been living abroad outside of the US in Asia for, by this point, it was around year four because I had moved in 2016.
Yeah.
And by then I had, done it all. I have traveled, backpacked, hostels, kind of really engage with the world in a new way and be exposed to so many new cultural things and things that I really enjoyed and things that I didn't enjoy as much. And so through that experience, I had came, it was 2020, 2021, and I had these bigger, larger questions that I had picked up along the way.
Yeah.
I had actually started before I even began to travel, but traveling and that experience really allowed me to kind of ask those questions to myself and not, move those questions aside and just continue as
Yeah.
is. And a lot of those questions were about travel. It was about inequities that I was seeing. It was about the beauty of different cultures and how different we all are, but also how similar we all are. And
Hmm.
oftentimes that isn't always seen or represented or as like we can openly engage with that when you're just living in a bubble like back home and you're just surrounded by the same things. Everywhere you go, there are little bubbles here and there. But the bigger questions were around ethics, were around sustainability,
Hmm.
responsible travel. Um, and I had myself engaged with things that I wasn't 100% agreed with at the end of the day. But
Right.
because you're traveling and you're exposed to all these new things, you
Yeah.
want to try them out. And
Right.
so by then, Mary Pat Shampo had told me about Vinci's organization, and she, you love travel, you love education. That's my background is in education,
Yeah.
and I was already battling or combating all these questions like about sustainability, impactfulness,
Hmm.
um, ethical moral values, responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. So really it was like the perfect storm for me of
Hmm.
having experienced all the things that I had, having had so many questions I wasn't able to answer, and then seeing Vinci do what she was already doing with Rise and talk about these very large, complex issues that often aren't talked about. And as someone who had experienced travel, I didn't know where to find those answers. So Rise really brought all of those things that were kind of scattered around in my brain and really solidified them into
Yeah.
one organization with a very clear purpose that aligned 100% with my values and kind of in the direction that I wanted to go into.
Yeah, and I think that's the really cool thing about Rise is it's not necessarily about teaching or telling people that they're doing something wrong. It's
Mm.
really about the aspirations and possibilities that there are in this world to do better than what we've done so far. And none of us are perfect travelers. None of us are, 100% always able to come back from a trip and say, everything I did on that trip was so right, so sustainable, and I get a gold star. That's not the point of Rise and the work that we're doing here. And so, Natalie, I think your experience and your curiosity and wonder of what if and the questioning that you had based off of your experience is what a lot of people have when they first start the flagship program here at Rise. And so if you haven't heard about our flagship program, Natalie, like I said, facilitates some of the conversations from the work. She's done the program. She's also done the journey, right? You've gone on the trip too,
Oh,
right?
not yet.
You haven't done
Not
on the trip yet. Okay, I couldn't remember. So tell me a little bit about as you sat in the seat of a student going through flagship program, going through some of the educational courses and such that we've put together. How has that helped you as a frequent traveler, as a nomad, as someone who lived outside of the country, find more of the answers that you are looking for?
That's a really good question. The flagship program and all the educational services that Rise creates, it's more like everything that we battle with is kind of hidden in plain sight, but a lot of the times we don't have the education to understand the nuances or how to explore those different things that we notice and maybe is like pulling at us.
Yeah,
We don't have the language or the framework
yeah.
or the connections to really understand them as best as we can. And so oftentimes they're hidden in plain sight. We see them, we feel certain ways, but we're not really sure what we're feeling anyway. The
Mhm.
flagship program and the educational programs that Rise has were really like those light bulb moments. Like,
Yeah,
oh, that makes 100% sense.
right,
And I really appreciate the reflectionness of the program. It's really, like you said, it's not, this is right, this is wrong. It's more so like, let's use our own experiences and our own awareness and our own knowledge to really unpack what this might mean for us in our life and in our community. And
Mm,
so it really was provided me that framework to be able to make those connections and those interconnections to see, okay, I can see why this might not feel 100% ethical or sustainable, but I don't understand why. And those frameworks really help me unpack and then continue those connections and understand exactly, and we're always learning. So
right,
we have a student mindset, but to the greatest degree possible, like as you're learning this content,
right.
able to make those connections and really understand the place that you or the impact that you have, depending on where you are in your journey, not just in travel, but just in everyday life. And then also what that might mean for the impact and the ripple effects. And so we are able to make
Mm,
those informed decisions based on the framework that Rise really utilizes and kind of leans on in
mhm.
their programming and in their educational services. And you can take that framework with you, beyond the program. And that's, I think, what's really stuck is
Yeah.
everywhere I go, I have that framework in mind and I'm able to make those connections or I'm able to ask questions that help me get to those answers when I don't always have them.
Yeah, and I think that's the really cool thing too, is like it's not just about traveling. It's not just about your yearly European vacation or whatever that may be. Like really a lot of these frameworks are something that you can use generally just in life and just really help you think through the complex ideas and the complexity of this world that we live in.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that you've said to me is you love building connections, you love bridging cultural gaps, you love, reconnecting with humanity. And I think when you go through a program like our flagship program, that's exactly what we want you to experience when you go through this, is that deeper connection that maybe you've never had before, or being able to ask those questions. And to be able to be in a safe space of others who are wanting to learn and to think through these frameworks as well and not feel shame or guilt or judgment because you share an experience that you've had in the past that you want to rethink through and reflect on so that you're more prepared to make a different choice the next time maybe that you're facing that. Um, so I think, Natalie, one thing that I really want to dive into with you today is really tapping into your genius and your knowledge base here. And so tell me a little bit more about your background, your work, what you're kind of up to in the world. I know that you've lived in Asia, that you've been a teacher, and that was kind of the ground foundation buildup. But what is it that you're up to right now?
Right now, I'm kind of dabbling in different things. I'm still working with Rise or volunteering with Rise. I also work for a nonprofit and also in the education space there. So I'm constantly engaging with new material, building on my own knowledge base,
Yeah.
and also with curiosity because, we are student learners in this world. And so really leaning into the asking questions and all that stuff. That's in my everyday life. Personally, with work, I work with students in college and high school aged or groups.
Hmm.
And recruiting them, educating them about programs that better fit their or really will propel their career and really
Hmm.
ask them those questions and create those frameworks that they're going to take with them beyond schooling or traditional schools.
Yeah.
I work with Rice Travel Institute. Oh, sorry, I already said that. I work with New Roots Institute. So many institutes. I'm all in the
So
institute.
many institutes.
Rise Travel, New Roots. And again, it's really for creating a more sustainable and impactful and mission-driven world and giving students, whether they're professionals, whether they're in high school or college, the skills that they need to be able to ask those right questions and connect their skill sets to a career or a role or a job or a task that's going to help build a better world as they see fit.
Yeah.
So that really is my background. I really love like you said, connecting with people, building those connections, building or connecting cultural gaps and really learning from one another. So
Mm.
my job is in continuous evolution.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really great. I'm learning so much, and it's just like kind of brewing in my mind. Okay, how do I want this to unravel for the next 5 years, or what project do I want to get into, depending on what I'm seeing,
Mhm.
what gaps I'm seeing with the
Yeah.
work, both at Rise and at New Roots.
Well, and I think you're pointing out what your superpower is, and that really is looking at that system lens thinking or looking through that system lens thinking
Yes.
and really connecting individual choices to the broader impact and implications of that choice. And so as someone who kind of I feel like this comes naturally to you, this system lens of thinking. And I'm sure some of your experiences have learned how to refine and make it even stronger. But how is it that you're able to really look at those complex problems, connecting those individual choices to really understand that broader impact? How do you really break that down for people to truly, truly understand? I don't know how to do that or what that actually feels like or looks like.
That is going to look different from, in my experience, that looks different for everyone. I always like to kind of lean into what they care about. If I'm
Mm,
speaking to a group of Gen Z and really what we're hearing in the environment or like in spaces is about the environment, climate
mm,
crisis and all these things. So oftentimes, like if I'm speaking to Gen Z, I'll kind of tailor the learnings through an environmental lens. If I'm speaking to older individuals, maybe through a health lens, if I'm speaking to people that are traveling and they're retired, like what do they really want out of that travel experience, which a lot of the time is comfort and relaxation. So really speaking to what they care about, what individuals care about, and then connecting what they care about from an external framework, like I really want rest or I want the climate to not collapse in the next 20 years.
yeah.
And then bringing that back home and saying, okay, what are we doing in our everyday life
Mm,
that is connected to the impact? And then is that a positive impact or a negative impact? And then does that propel the future that we want to see in the
mhm,
world? Or yeah, in the world. Um, a lot of the times it's really small. And then depending on what I'm speaking about or what I'm educating on, the theme or the topic, if it's about travel, then connecting those experiences that also like meet I'm kind of feeling like I'm sounding like a travel advisor, but really everything is an advisement of how we want to live in the world and how we want to experience the world. So using the system lens to break everything down and understand, okay, every decision we make has an impact. We don't really get to decide whether our decisions do or don't have an impact. They do.
Thank you.
What we
Yeah.
do get to decide is if it's going to be a positive impact or a negative one.
Mm,
That's where I really bring in those connections and
mm,
unpack what those impacts of these different decisions are and how we can navigate. Because sometimes we don't always have the access to
right.
choose the most positive impact driven choice.
Yeah.
But life is a journey and like we journey with it. And
Yeah.
so understanding that, hey, we're in this journey together with the rest of the world. And even though we can't make the best choice all the time, but we can make the best choice that's for us in that moment, and for the world around us. So it looks different because again, I'm really into travel and I'm really into food systems as well. That's what I do at New Roots. I
Mm,
focus on food. And what I really love about travel and food systems is that they always interconnect because when you're traveling, you're always eating. And
yeah.
so bringing in those lenses to travelers is also something that I'm very passionate about. How
Mm,
can we continue to practice sustainable consumption, for example, or ethical consumption while we're
mm,
out in these new creative spaces that
yeah.
we've never experienced before? So it's a continuous journey how to
Mm,
bridge them together, but I would connect it, or I would start off by saying, like, what do those individuals care most about? And then
yeah.
meeting them where they're at, because everyone's journey is different and everyone's on different parts of their journey. So kind of leaning into where they are in those moments is super important for me and also very exciting to learn about too, because a lot of the times those journeys are very different from my own. So it's also an
Right.
opportunity for me to engage and learn from those different groups of people.
And so when we go down this path of sustainable consumption while you're on travel,
Yeah.
what are some of the questions or some of the curiosities that we should be exploring as travelers when we're looking through that sustainable consumption lens?
Um, I mean, we can talk about like zero waste, plastic sustainability. We can talk about resource sustainability, like how much water are we using, or emissions we're emitting, or what's our carbon footprint in this way. And then also sustainability can also be cultural and
Yeah.
like human rights, human lens.
Hmm.
So when you're traveling or when I travel, and again, it starts with zero knowledge sometimes, and then you're slowly building up. So again, that journey is very important, being part of that, and being embedded into that journey. But when we want to ask, I think if we want to ask ourselves some questions as we're traveling, it's, is there a better choice? Like, is
Hmm.
this the best choice that's available to me right now? Sometimes it is, and maybe it's not the best choice ever, but it's the best choice you have access
Yeah.
to. And then sometimes you're able to stop and reflect and think about,
Mm,
okay, can I get this product from a more ethically sourced location, or maybe from a local artisan?
right.
Or, really, I think stopping to reflect in the moment. When we travel, we're so excited, and a lot of it is go, go, go. And people have itineraries and they've got the whole schedule planned out, but really slowing down and asking those questions like, can I make a better choice right now?
Mhm.
Whether it's buying like a plastic bottle of water, for example. Maybe you have a water bottle at home you forgot to bring. Cool,
Mhm.
next time I'm going to bring that with me. Or whether it's choosing like a piece of jewelry or maybe a souvenir or something like that, kind of stopping and reflecting, okay, where am I shopping? Is it locally owned? Can I make a
Mhm.
better choice tomorrow or maybe later today?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think just stopping in the tracks and asking those questions, can I make a better, is there a better choice out there that I can make?
Mhm.
Really important, which oftentimes I think when we travel, we're just so excited.
Yeah,
We forget
exactly. We're just go, go,
where
go,
we're at.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and again, reflection is key, I think, in this journey of life. And to be able to take that pause and ask yourself, is this the best choice I can make with what I know and what I have available right now is so key. And again, if you forgot your water bottle that day and you do need to buy that plastic water, don't make yourself completely wrong, right? We all make
You
mistakes,
need
and
to
I think
drink
that's,
water. Yeah.
yeah, you need to drink water, and that's the key.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, Natalie, is it's sometimes as simplistic and as small as it seems as bringing a reusable water bottle versus buying water bottles when you're traveling. That impact can be so large though on the area that you're visiting, on, getting supplies shipped in and out of an area. So it sometimes is the most simplistic little thing that you could be packing with you that could make such a large impact on that community that you're actually visiting. So don't discredit those little wins that you do have when you do have them in front of you. And I think an important part is to celebrate them. We can beat ourselves up by not remembering the water bottle, but you can
Yeah.
remember it tomorrow.
Yeah, really good points. And that goes with everything. Water bottle is such a small example, but
Yeah.
like where are we staying? What community are we staying? Who are we giving our money to in the greater scheme of
Right.
things?
Right.
And then what is a ripple effect of those impacts? Like it could be waste. It could
Right.
be the money's going external, it's going to a foreign entity while
Mhm.
you're in a local neighborhood. Um, yeah. And then resources. I mean, we could talk about that for days as well. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, so I'm kind of curious if you were to look in your crystal ball and see the future of the travel industry of tomorrow, what would you want to see?
I would want to see people leading with curiosity
Mhm.
and wanting to engage where they're at. I think at least in the US and like westernized style of traveling, it's very extractive. What can this community offer me
Mhm.
when relax or um go to an all-inclusive resort and everything is can be done to me type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's very extractive. What
Mhm.
can this community offer me? But I would like to see it shift to being more inclusive. Like, what can I offer or what can I learn from this
Mhm.
area when we travel? Like, just being more curious about the areas that we visit.
Yeah.
Because they are very unique, and also it's a great privilege to even be able to visit
Right.
neighborhoods. Those a lot of people aren't able to move around as frequently or as
Freely.
often
Yeah.
freely, yeah, especially with the passport, as people from the US can.
Yeah.
So I think steering away from the extractive mindset, like what can this community or what can this place offer me, more so what can I offer them? What can I learn in the process? Whether we're not offering them like well, we're offering them a lot of money or money
Right.
economy. So where are we investing that money? Who are we offering it to? Who's staying with that money? But also just learning from the different practices that maybe go, hundreds of years back and just kind of bridging those cultural gaps so that when you come back, you feel more connected to the
Mhm.
places you visited versus otherwise
Yeah.
not as connected. Yeah. So just
Right.
leading with curiosity, I think, is where I would want to see.
Right. So instead of what can this community give to me, are you asking the question, what can I be giving back into this community? Or what experience can I have to make this really a local experience, to make the larger impact locally than maybe on that global scale? So when you think about your legacy, what legacy do you want to be leaving behind in this world?
Um, That's not a question I often think about, but I guess if I just want to reflect back on myself and what kind of drives me to do the things that I do in this world, especially with my career, is leading with kindness. I want people to just lead with kindness and then um, feel connected to the world around them, especially coming from, I live in LA. It's a hustle bustle city.
Yeah.
There's always traffic. You're always in your car, and oftentimes that connection piece can fall off. We
Mm.
don't always I don't always feel like a lot of areas are designed or built in a way that we always feel that connection. So just if I were to leave a legacy, I would say lead with kindness, find opportunities to connect,
Yeah.
kind of feel and embrace that we are all connected and we're all part of the same planet. Even
Mm.
though we live far away, even though our lives can be completely different, we're all here
Yeah.
together. So hopefully that kindness will help us get closer to those connections.
Mm. I love that. And I think that is 100% who you are and how you show up into this world. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Yeah, this was such a pleasure. Always, I'm such a fan of Rise. If you haven't heard about Rise, check them out. Check us out. We're doing amazing things.
Yeah,
And we really are working on creating a more just and equitable world through travel. And travel is so fun. So why not check it
exactly.
out and get
I
involved?
love that.
Yeah.
Well, that does bring us to the end of our journey today. And as Natalie said, if you like what you heard and you would love to hear more, please subscribe, like, or comment. You can also follow us at Rise Travel Institute on Facebook or on Instagram. And just remember, here at Rise Travel, we believe curious travel can help us create a more just and equitable world. So if you're a college student planning maybe that study abroad trip, a tourism professional who wants to create a more equitable and inclusive industry, or really any professional who wants to travel or is currently traveling the world, and you really want to understand how to travel in a more just and sustainable way, we encourage you to head on over to risetravelinstitute.org for more information on our educational programs. And we'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, keep roaming, keep learning, and continue to be a Rise Traveler.